Europeans, what is something us Americans aren't ready to hear? I live in America but I'll say it anyway. Having to pledge allegiance to the flag every day in school for 12 years is ridiculous. Like really, just think about that. We have pubs older than your country. X200B. Edit. Anyone getting angry about this comment, you're just proving my point, lol. Stop confusing the word socialism with communism and fascism. There is nothing wrong with trying to set up a system wherein people who could use some help actually get help. Yes, the system is imperfect, but that goes for every system. Please sit before reading. My 72-year-old auntie, who hasn't worked a single day in her life, so no pension savings, got an open heart surgery recently. Stayed in hospital for 12 days and paid some $1,300 for all of it. And we're not even in a European country. We're post-Soviet. Your culture war is bullcrap that makes it impossible to tackle any real problems and improve the country, and the rest of the world suffers for it. Extreme Christianity. All of them look crazy, and here in Europe a lot of people are Christian but don't make such a deal out of it to harass people. No, we aren't jealous of your freedom. In fact, we feel your freedoms are quite limited. And no, you are not the biggest democracy in the world. I think most Americans on Reddit are more than ready to hear all the answers and are very aware of our many national failings. And if your great-great-great-grandparents moved from Norway to USA, start a family and generations later you were born, you are not Norwegian. Your ancestors were. You have a bit of Nordic blood in you, but you are still 100 American. Not Norwegian. Not 25 Irish, 10 Swedish, 3 Finnish, 17 Norwegian, 5 Danish. Just plain American. You're very loud as tourists. Speak at a normal volume, please. Yes, I'm petty, and this is insignificant. Just wanted to say this for ages and finally got the chance, smiley face. Dear Passport Brothers. Looking for a traditional wife somewhere overseas by flashing your cash and pretending to be rich will only get you a foreign gold digger as opposed to the domestic gold diggers you are trying to escape. Except it's worse, because not only will you end up paying for her, but you'll most likely end up having to pay for sponsor her whole family. Your food is killing you. Oh, and you are not the best country on earth. Sorry to whatever propaganda they push at you all. Unless you're properly trained or you've done it before, you have no idea whether your gun will save you in a dangerous situation. The adrenaline might get to you or you might freeze up. I'm not leveling this at all Americans or all gun owners, but way too many folks think they're badass just by owning a gun. Your government is as corrupt AF. Your tax dollars are being spent on military programs that you will probably never find out about rather than being used to improve your infrastructure, less than a quarter of which could allow you all to have universal healthcare. The world isn't just America. The internet isn't just America. You're like 3 of the world's population. Stop assuming everybody is American, or cares about you, at all. X200B. Stop electing fascists. You are not the freest people in the world. You are not even in the top 10. Not everything is about military. Saluting to random people is creepy and unsettling, and they don't necessarily deserve it. That Europe is in fact a continent containing 50 countries and various cultures, and let's be real, European will never be an identity. People will always be their nation, or their ethnic before being European. Hustle culture isn't real. You're not going to make it big because you're working 24/7, you're just getting exploited. You all seem to speak way too loudly for everyone else to have to hear your business, in trains, airports, restaurants, everywhere. STFU, the whole world does not revolve around you. You're at an 8 volume. We need you at a 4. You're one party away from de facto dictatorship, and why is gerrymandering a thing? The US can't even spell democracy. For real, how is gerrymandering legal? HET Europeans think that the worst of America, sensationalized and trumpeted by the media because adds revenue, is all of America. Trust me, there are literally tens of millions of us that understand these problems, but change is slow and difficult. Tipping culture is placing the working class against the working class. And you lot are falling for it instead of striking. You are far from being the greatest country in the world or the land of the free. Since you're a rich country, it's wrong to call you a third world country, but alright, what's something Americans aren't ready to hear? Reddit proceeds to repeat stuff they've said a million times as if we haven't heard it all already. People on Reddit love to ignore the left and moderate side of the US and base everything off of conservatives. The comments to upvotes ratio shows what a complete circle jerk it is. The only reason other countries care so much about American politics is because your country is the most powerful military force in the world and is already bordering on fascism. For people parading around freedom so damn often, your government and policies sure like restricting other people's freedom. Also, in civilized society, your freedom ends where another person's freedom begins. You're less than 4 of the world's population, it's almost never all about you. The vast majority of the planet doesn't care. Praising military members all the time and saying things like thanks for your service or letting them board planes first or making them stand while sports crowds applaud you is really weird. They have a job and anyone can sign up. Just treat them normally. The grass isn't greener over here. Europe is such a diverse continent that you'll see all sorts of countries that are not compatible with your way of thinking. If you think Republican-dominated states are bad, see what policies some other countries in Europe have. At least half you are taking loads of medications you don't really need just to profit the pharmaceutical industry. There are alternatives to having all the guns and no guns. Finland is in top 10 gun ownership but not much gun violence. You're one of the most openly corrupt countries in the world. Everyone knows that medical care and education shouldn't cost so much, yet politicians are so corrupt that it'll never change because those industries can afford to bribe politicians. The Supreme Court even has a corruption issue. As someone from the UK, for the love of God, stop making fun of our food. France, Italy, Spain, Turkey, Greece etc. they all can because our food isn't on par with theirs, but American cuisine is hardly much better than ours. It's like the dumb kid picking on the other for being dumb. Visiting European cities and telling us how different it is in America isn't as good a conversation starter as you think. We know it's different. Social welfare, subsidies, parental leave, free healthcare and free education aren't handouts, they're your own tax money being given back to you, which is literally what the government is for. Yours is putting all your money into the military in their own pockets instead, and you support it for some reason. Learn some class solidarity. If you're born and raised in America, you're American. Not Irish American, African American, Dutch American etc. etc. Just plain old American. The education system is collapsing in many countries. Students suffer from the amount of exams, and the material. Teachers are protesting, and the government doesn't do anything about it. We teach the material to ourselves. Man, I was really looking forward to reading these because I thought they'd be funny razzing type comments, and instead it's just more hatred. This is getting exhausting. I don't know how this many people have this level of energy to stay angry. Having 2 parties backed by oligarchy is not better than having a single party backed by oligarchy. Having 2 parties backed by oligarchy is not better than having a single party backed by oligarchy. Did you know a country called Georgia exists, and it's what people refer to by default, not the state? Expecting tips to have a decent wage is not okay. Being afraid of calling an ambulance or filing for bankruptcy if you go to the hospital is not okay. The measures you take after school shootings and gun violence are a joke and not okay. The salary median of the country is ridiculous for such a rich country. The level of wealth inequality is not okay. Vacations. I had a baby on February, so I took 18 days paternal leave, 7 days winter holiday. Now I'm on a 4-week summer holiday. In winter I'm gonna take 3 months off for paternal leave. This is all paid by either the workplace or government. And I'm not some high-level exec or anything. Just your average Joe. It's possible to pay the cashier at McDonald's a living wage without a Big Mac costing you an arm and a leg. Compulsory voting. Well, compulsory turning up to vote isn't an attack on personal freedom, it's a way of making sure that normal people vote, not just extremists. America's problems are not the world's problem. But to be fair, the same applies to Europeans, as we in the West think the whole world revolves around us. America is not a democracy, but a plutocracy, and will always be one until it removes corporate influence in politics. No one gave you the right to become a self-proclaimed world police. You are definitely not the land of the free anymore, and your social and healthcare system is abnormal and ridiculous.